Greetings, friends of the apocalypse. This is Jared the Apocalypse Nerd Wallace and Adam Scott Glancy joining you guys again for another trip into the wastelands with episode 11 of Podcast at Ground Zero, The Man We Called Max.
That's right, our hero or anti-hero for a new age.
Yes, and if you haven't figured out who it's about, what this is about yet, then why are you here? To learn, that's why you're here.
Until you've learned, you have to call him Mr. Rockatansky, right? You're not allowed to call him Max.
No, you got to be friends with him. So, all right, folks, we're back after a short hiatus. We had
long hiatus.
Short hiatus, but
it seemed long to me. I had to do 3 different conventions in 3 different states and on 3 consecutive weekends. That seemed long to me. That was a long time.
It was. So, yeah, we had like Gen Con, and then Scott had 2 other conventions after that each week. You know, then I had to come back to work, and it's just excuses. But we're back. If
we really loved you, we would have blown off these enormous money-making opportunities and merely podcast you from our cardboard box on the side of the road.
Well, that would have been very apocalyptic.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Eating dog food out of a can in a cardboard box.
Mmm.
Good times.
Good times. So, all right. So we got, like I said, we're going to be talking about Mad Max. We're going to talk about, the trilogy. We're going to talk about the upcoming movie. The little tidbits of Mad Max and how it's kind of influenced movies and culture and the whole the post-apocalyptic culture as we know it at this point, because you can't talk about the apocalypse without having people wearing black spray-painted sports gear anymore. So
no, that's it. That's a new rule apparently since 1981. Is that all post-apocalyptic raiders have to have hit the Big 5 sporting goods store before they went out to raid and pillage across the landscape.
Yes, yeah. They set a very good standard with that. So. All right, so we're gonna. I don't really have anything. I mean, I have a bunch of stuff I've encountered for along the way, but I got it all bookmarked. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'll post stuff as I find it. There's been all kinds of weird, interesting little things that have come up. Like the one thing you posted on my Facebook.
Oh, the house in Vegas.
Yeah, that was. It was. I didn't get a chance to read the article. It was like the house that was the bunker that was in Vegas. Is that where that was?
Yeah, the underground house built in a bunker. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and pop up the article and see if I can, hit a little, see if I can hit that screen share just to make that work. Let's see if we can make this go. So I'm going to go over and hit screen share, and hopefully we won't be kicked offline. And we'll go over here, start screen share. All right. I found, somebody posted it to me on this website, Messy Nessie Chic. And so what we've got here is a 1970s Cold War era home built 26 feet below ground. Jerry, can you see the little photograph of the house there?
Yeah, we can see like the front porch there.
Yeah. That is a house built inside a fucking cave. All right, that is not a house on the surface. That is a fake tree. The rock is like a beer cooler next to the house. The wall showing a lovely green, facade or image of the outdoors. That's underground. This place is like, here we go. Can you see that picture?
Let's go back to it. It's like a boy and his dog,
Yes. Yeah, it's like the underground bunker and a boy and his dog. And can you see that when I change the picture? Can you see that it's changed, or does it just give you a static image?
No, that's I'm seeing that the trees, the palm trees, the grass.
Yeah, it's got an AstroTurf grass. It's got this 1960s kind of inlaid stone fake exterior. Inside, it's got views out windows showing an outdoors that doesn't exist anymore. It's really very heavily influenced by like 1970s style. I mean, there's the creepy kitchen, and I gotta tell you, that place looks like they've probably started eating visitors. It's so neat and tidy. I mean, look at this kitchen. If these guys aren't cannibalizing their neighbors, they're not doing it right. The pink curtains and the pink tile. So yeah, it was all the high-tech 1970 could bring to the problem, with a giant ballroom inside of it. And again,
the kitchen's got to be clean because it takes a lot of work to get blood out. So they got to really be anal as well, besides being cannibals. So
And so yeah, there's a horrible, like that. You look outside and there's an outdoors, and But the one thing, if I could find, oh yeah, the giant pink sunken mirrored bathtub. So when you're bathing, you can see all the open sores, from the radiation poisoning that you've got.
Oh, it's Roman, so they could fill it up with lots of blood.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Rock is not a beer cooler; it's an outdoor barbecue. Because again, cannibals.
What is this? What is this? The Flintstones?
Yeah. There's a freaking running fountain. There's a pool. There's an image of the pool in one corner of the giant open.
Look! The trees just go up into the roof. Why didn't they paint the tree looking up on the top?
Well, they do. They've got clouds painted on the ceiling with fake.
It goes into the clouds.
Mary and Jerry carved into the into the fake tree. That's awesome. And there is a hand pump. There's a hand pump, so you can get the feeling like you're on a farm, despite the fact that all the cows and chickens are just painted on the wall.
So is this going to be in the next Fallout game?
If somebody isn't working on designing this as a fan-made bunker in Fallout, they are doing it wrong.
Yes.
And this is the one that creeps me out the most.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
Yes, where there's a fence around the edge of the cavern, it's a split rail fence, and then there's all these people just hanging out at the edge of the fence, hanging out like, "Hi, remember us? We're all the ones you left on the surface to die. I'm sure we'll be fine.
Let us in." It's like something out of like an old Twilight Zone episode where the guy has the bunker and you gotta let us in, even though we said you were a crazy person before.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he just goes there to gloat and goes, "You said I was crazy for building this bunker, but now you're the one whose testicles have fallen off due to the radiation." And this is, of course, what it looks like on the surface with this, crappy, I don't know, sort of, yeah, I'm just stunned. I'm just freaking stunned by the whole thing.
Well, the thing is, now all his neighbors know it's there, so now they're going to try to get in when the bombs fall, or the zombies come, or the meteors strike, or the aliens come, whatever the case may be,
Whatever. Yes, luckily something will happen.
Something will happen, and everyone's going to try to break in there. So.
Well, my understanding is that the people who built it are long gone. And that the original owners are gone, and that now it is just owned by people who bought it as a curiosity. I mean, you'll notice they've drained the underground pool, and none of the water's working down there.
I thought this was something that was current. Oh, what's wrong with these people? Why aren't they living there? What the fuck's wrong with them?
Why would you buy something like that and not set up shop down there? I mean,
I don't know. It's poor thinking.
Yeah. I guess maybe they wanted access to the sun or something. So they can get skin cancer in Nevada.
Sun's overrated. You used to live in Florida. It's overrated. You know that.
Yeah. Says the two pasty white guys. Yes.
Yeah.
Sun is overrated. So anyways, that is the only thing we came up with, which was just 8-cylinder, fuel-injected, nitrous system crazy as far as the apocalypse goes. That's our big find this month.
That's our big find for now. So, all right. So let's start talking about Mad Max. So we got Mad Max. As we know, it's a trilogy, which started off with Mad Max and then Mad Max 2 in Australia, but also known as The Road Warrior here, and then of course Beyond Thunderdome with Tina Turner. So,
now my big question to start off with is, when did you first get to see Mad Max? Because in '79, I wasn't old enough to get into the theaters and see it.
I didn't see the first. I didn't get to see Mad Max until well afterwards. I actually saw The Road Warrior in the theaters in 1981. I would have been, what was I, 81, so I would have been 12 going on 13. It was probably the summer of my 13. Well, no, it was 12. Wait, was it 81 or 82?
It's 81.
Is it 81? Okay. So then I would have been 12 years old. I saw that in the theaters at the Lowe's Theater at the Coral Springs Mall. Rated R movie, went all by myself. Now, mind you, when I was 12, I was almost 6 foot.
You're a pituitary freak. You had a beard at 12.
I was petite, but oh yeah, no. When I was 14, I was already 6 foot. So mind you, I looked like a baby. They didn't really give a crap about that stuff back then. But I saw The Road Warrior in the theater because again, this is the early days of I just kind of started getting into the apocalyptic stuff, and I was like, oh, the Road Warrior. So I mean, it didn't start with that. It started
No.
somehow before.
Well, I
But
will. You know what? I remember where I saw it. It was God. Now, if I can just try and remember the guy's name, it was a friend of mine in high school. His dad was one of the chemistry teachers in high school. It was Jack something or other.
Walter White.
I wish. No, probably not. No, but Jack's dad was the adult to take me and Jack to go see The Road Warrior in 1981, and I would have been, I guess,
About
14 or 15. I'm 18 in '84, so
15.
yeah,
We'll
15 years old, and he's the one who snuck us in.
Snuck you in.
Well,
Snuck you in. I got to know by myself.
I didn't have my parents' permission to go see this movie. I just had an adult with me. That's all. I had. And it was as much as Star Wars. And I went to see it at the same theater, this little doubleplex behind the Altamont Mall in Altamont Springs, Florida. It's all gone now. It's all been torn down and replaced by some Googleplex that's up. But it was just this two-screen. That's where I saw Star Wars, back, I don't know, would have been 4 or 5 years earlier. And that was sort of a life-changing nerd event.
Oh, yeah.
But holy cow! There's nothing that Star Wars had nothing on
The Road Warrior. Oh,
no. No, that was the difference between being a kid and being a man, was going to see The Road Warrior.
People people like myself of the tribe would typically have, a bar mitzvah, but people like me would go see The Road Warrior, so become a man. Forget the Torah,
Yeah, we're gonna Torah up some road with this the last of the V8 interceptors. Oh my God.
Forget the Torah, you got to pray over the V8, okay? But so that's right.
Put your hands on the blower.
Whoa. But so that's why I originally saw it. I didn't see the original Mad Max, the first, until way after. Now,
I saw that on HBO. I think what happened is a couple years later, I ended up seeing it on HBO.
We rented it, and then let me tell you, I was disappointed.
Oh yeah,
very disappointed, because I was like, oh, if the Road Warrior's got all this badass shit, this is the beginning. It's got to be real badass. It was a very different film, because the Road Warrior, Thunderdome were after whatever events happened, so it was apocalyptic. The Road Warrior is arguable. Thank you.
Arguably.
Thank you. Me talk well. Was not. It was prior or maybe during, but it really wasn't a post-apocalyptic film. They alluded to things were breaking down a bit, but then again, were they really breaking down, or was that just rural Australia? We don't know.
Everything we know about Australia today suggests that it is a continent designed to kill people. I mean, it's the deadliest snakes, the deadliest spider. They've got a poisonous fucking tiny purple octopus. They've got crocodiles. They've got their freaking platypuses are poisonous. Right? The duck-billed platypus is poisonous. Clearly, Australia is designed to kill you. When they showed us that image of Australia in Mad Max, I thought, well, that's just the way that shit is. That's just Australia.
Exactly. So the Mad Max, the original one, it's more of a development of the character of why he got the way he did, because it was a little lawless, but again, is that just the rural areas they lived in? But they were talking about things like, oh, this is the last V8, the law seemed kind of weird. Say like maybe things were kind of, I think,
spiraling down. I mean, it's clearly, I got the impression that either the war, it was like On the Beach, where the big nuclear war had happened somewhere else, and Australia is breaking down because they don't have the same access to petrochemicals. There's the general pranging of the world economy by a nuclear war has left Australia in a spiral, kind of like England is in Children of Men.
Well, I don't think it necessarily happened yet because the fuel was aplenty. Nobody was looking for the juice. So I think maybe the conflicts had possibly started. Like there was the buildup of the tension. The wars were maybe in other places. So things were definitely on a downturn at that point. Maybe commerce wasn't as good, but definitely, I mean, they had structure, they had organization. It seemed kind of loose at a lot of places.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that I'm not suggesting that the government is gone, but it's clearly martial law. There's clearly areas that they have just triaged that are no longer being.
Well, yeah, because they have the signs like radiations, so something's happened.
Oh, and there was that sign: you were entering an unpatrolled area.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the first thing they show you is number of highway fatalities this year, 57 or whatever it was. That's your first shot of the film is the sign that says you were leaving a controlled area.
Yeah, so things are definitely on the downturn. But again, not post-apocalyptic, pre-post-apocalyptic, definitely building up, developing the character, a little bit long and kind of at points, but it tells you who the man Max was and why he got cold and left and things like that. So again, classic film, it's good, but again, if you're just looking for post-apocalyptic goodness, not so much,
However, I gotta say that not only does Mad Max deliver us our first look at the V8 Interceptor, which is fucking-tanic, but it also presents us with a revenge killing that has been cannibalized in one movie after another, after another, after another. And when Mad Max kills Johnny the Boy and leaves him...
Sorry, my mic was off.
Okay.
So when he's handcuffed to the car and
it's going to
burn fuel, up. Yeah.
That death has been cannibalized over and over again. The most obvious one is Rorschach killing the kidnapper in The Watchmen, where he sets the house on fire and handcuffs the guy to the radiator or the sink. That was it, the pipes under the sink, and he's like, "Here's a hacksaw. I bet you can. Let's see if you can get to your wrist in less than a minute." And that's been used a million times since they did that in Mad Max.
Was it ever done before? Was it ever done prior to that?
I never saw that shit before.
Yeah.
Whether in original Australian or the English dubbing. Did we mention that horror show yet?
Oh, how it was dubbed? Because we can't possibly understand an Australian accent, so we got to dub it into American English because
I don't think we got an Australian version, the Australian soundtrack, the original dialogue for Mad Max until the 2000s.
Yeah, it was very, very late until some of the later editions.
Almost like a quarter of a century to get the original.
Well, because it's like they're speaking with marbles in their mouth. We don't understand what they're talking Australian.
Fortunately, we didn't have to put up with that on Road Warrior.
Oh no, so they didn't bother with any of that shit. So let's leave Mad Max where it is, and then like I said, it's a classic film. Builds off the character. Then we get the Road Warrior, complete departure from the original film. Everything's gone to shit at this point, and they build up with the narration in the beginning, talking about the two tribes, the building, the gear, the machines shutting down because there's no fuel, the great wars that they forget about. So they build up with a narration of what they're going for there. Now, this film, like I said, there was post-apocalyptic films way prior to that, like we've talked about before. Like A Boy and His Dog and The Ravagers.
Ravagers.
We've talked about all kinds. The Omega Man. Logan's Run. We talked about so many different post-apocalyptic films. They were around. They were popular in the 70s. The Ultimate Warrior, but this was the catalyst. I think this was the cattle prod that really launched it out after that movie because it was so popular.
Remember, it's 81. We're still, height of the Cold War. Everyone's shit scared that Reagan is gonna, push the button because you can't tell the difference between the nurse button and the nuke button. If I can just go back to that, was it a Phil Collins video?
Yep. Land of Confusion.
Yeah. So we're all shit scared that they're going to push the button. So this is perfect for the 80s.
Oh yeah. It set the tone. Now that film, the beginning of that film, like that beginning scene, not just the narration with the different the montage, but that first scene with the smoke, and you start up really high. And the way you're just slowly zooming in, hit that high, and it starts going down the highway, then boom! It's like you're right in the front of the car, the engine. Wow! I was blown away by that opening. when I was
Yeah.
12 years old. That was amazing. I loved it. I was like, wow, this movie's awesome.
Which has been since, again, now it's iconic. Now it's people go to that for their ripoff because holy shit, it worked.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. So again, this film, again, it's a simple, as we know, simple story. Max is, jaded and hard, and he's just roaming the wastelands, and there's roaming gangs of raiders looking for the juice, the precious juice.
And some recreational looting and pillaging too. I mean, there's and raping. There's always some good raping.
Well, there's always raping, but there's always raping in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you haven't seen this movie, we don't need to get into super details of all the nuances. But if you don't know, then again, why are you watching?
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. The movie does just about everything right. I'm trying to think of some place where it fucked up. And you know what? I mean, right down to the part where they, spoilers, right? Should we just say spoilers?
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
I mean, they do everything right. They fucking kill Max's dog. Okay, everybody. If everybody in the theater wasn't pissed enough that they wrecked the last of the V8 Interceptors, then the bad guys have to go and kill his fucking dog. And at that point, it's like, okay, what part of Rampage did you not understand? Everybody's gonna have to die now because you killed a puppy and you killed the best car that ever, rolled the face of the earth. So that's it. Gloves off.
What would have been perfect if he would have said was actually a quote from Last Generation comic book, where there's this when they're in like Morocco, there's this bar fight that starts. Somebody gets pushed, and this one guy just stands up. Somebody's gonna die. Maybe everybody, starting with you. Okay. That's basically what that's what is the overtone of his attitude was.
Oh, that was the audience. The audience is.
Somebody's gonna die. Maybe everybody. So, oh yeah, that was just.
I would like to point out that the director, it was Miller Kennedy. I think it's George Miller is the director on Mad Max 2. Let me just it's it's George Miller and George. Let's point out something about George. This is the same guy who made Babe and Babe Pig in the City.
That's true.
All right. So he clearly knows how to manipulate your fucking emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
And he definitely did it in both these films too. This film extremely well. And another important shout out is Graham Grace Walker, who was the art director for this film. And
the one who chose buttless leather chaps and shoulder pads.
Yes, the man who brought us the new wave of post-apocalyptic marauders, where they've all gone by Big Five to pick up on all the sports gears. I mean, there's a guy in a catcher's mask that Max blows off the side of the truck at the end of the movie. So,
catcher's masks, hockey helmets. It's all sporting. Well, again, let's think logically here. If you're looking for protection, what's going to be easier to get? Sporting good equipment or riot gear from the police station? So it kind of, I mean, in a sense, it makes sense. It's logical. But the thing is, that became everybody was there. Every movie that came out after that had shoulder pads and football helmets and hockey masks.
We cannot blame. The rest of the copycatters. We can't blame Grace and George Kennedy and Miller, George Miller, for what came after them. They came up with
an innovative idea. It was kind of ridiculous, but made sense at the same time. Because where are you going to find armor and things like that? It does make sense, but and also the thing is the lack of weaponry too. Because again, I think that was more inherent of Australia itself, because you're like, why do they got bows and arrows and boomerangs? And because it's not a gun country like America.
You got to remember that Australia went through their big spasm of anti-gun legislation after. Let's see, there was a school shooting, and then there was a guy, who was like some mentally ill guy who befriended and stole all the money from a woman who'd won the lottery, and then eventually went on a rampage. They had two crazy shooters in Australia. But that's late 80s. It's long after. It's long after.
But still, they might have had more fire, but they're not like not like on par with this country though.
Well, it was Australia was a frontier society. I mean, like America, they had some locals, the Aborigines, they pushed out of the way to make their country. So they do have sort of a Wild West cattle ranching feel to some of the places.
Some of the places.
So I didn't really get that it was like a reference to Australia. I didn't get the impression, and maybe if there are some Australians watching, they can correct me on this, that it was a comment on the lack of firearms in Australia, but more a situation that things had broken down so far and so fast that that so much talent has been lost and so much engineering materials have been lost that we're running out of bullets. Now,
but then what comes up is, well, how far into it is it? I mean, it's not like it's 2, 3, 5 years afterwards. It's probably within. But then we could roll back a little bit, because it's like, okay, from 1 to 2, how many years have transpired? But then if we also go with the assumption that 1 is during a breakdown, so things are getting more and more scarce, so then maybe it's a longer term effect of, mass production of weaponry, firearms, bullets. So maybe at that point, even if it's only maybe 2 years afterwards, then. But then they had however many years were before that, so we've gone a number of years where there's not like they're cranking out bullets left and right. Maybe.
Well, I got to admit though that the thing that always got me is that I kind of thought, well, sure, all right, I can buy that they're running out of that they're running out of access to ammunition presses and things like that. But boy, you guys sure are burning up a lot of petrochemicals with these riding around on your motorcycles and dune buggies. I would have thought that the vehicles would have broken down long before the ability to reload firearms did. But be that as it may, it was an interesting choice to go with this sort of medieval weapons.
Well, but also think about this, because I know you don't know as much about like vehicles, but those are all like 70s vehicles. 70s vehicles were a lot simpler. Computers, they were a lot easier to maintain, because yeah, I don't have the wiring harness to like see the speedometer and my air conditioning to play my radio, but you know what? I have enough to just have the starter button, turn the starter to turn the engine over, to have the spark plugs work, to make the engine work. Boom.
That's fair.
Maybe have lights. So they were a lot simpler to maintain, because if you just threw out the window all the luxuries and just had the base like mechanical functioning things, you could stretch them out a lot long
You're right.
time.
It's 1981. There's probably not a chip to be found in anything out there.
Well, there is, but it's not. But then most of those are like 70s vehicles. Well, yeah. The V8 Interceptor was a Falcon, which was a 1973 Ford Australian vehicle. So that's almost 10 years prior. In the 70s, they're even more simpler.
Yeah.
So
fair enough. But again, we were all blown away by this sort of the sort of idea that they've got these high-tech things like the gyrocopter and the trucks and the vehicles and motorcycles combined with all this medieval weaponry, which however, have the advantage of not running out of ammunition.
Well, unless you run out of arrows.
You just pull them out of the guy next to you.
Because it's very they have bows and arrows, hand crossbows. It's very, again, it seems like okay, cars but no guns. But then if we just jump ahead to beyond Thunderdome, guns became very common.
Because they had a place to sit down and manufacture ammunition.
Were they manufacturing ammunition, though? I
imagine they're doing it in Bartertown. I imagine that Bartertown's number one thing, besides methane gas for the fuel, is the number one thing is down there they have energy to run machine presses. Yeah, and so they're cranking out ammo. The ultimate, and as we've learned, ammo ultimate barter option in the apocalypse.
And I'll ask you this one thing: do you know who runs Bartertown? So.
Wow. I'm gonna have to say Master Blaster runs.
Master Blaster. Say louder. But so the second one, again, classic film. Very good. Set the tone.
Astounding stunts. Some of which are almost Ben-Hur. I mean, there's a couple of stunts you're going to see in that movie, and also in the first Mad Max, where the stunts didn't quite work out the way they planned. Luckily, nobody died. But you're going to see some folks get hurt making that movie.
So, again, so that set the tone. Because then, from Mad Max, there was things like, what was it? Bronx Warriors and
Oh my God!
things like all these copycat movies stemmed after the Road Warrior.
Every hero's wearing a damn set of leather black pants and
Uh
a
huh.
leather jacket. Metal Storm
The destruction of Jared Sin in 3D.
in 3D, starring Tim Thomerson and Richard Mall, and who did we say? Travolta's wife was in it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember her name, but yes, Travolta's wife was in that, and whatever poor bastard played Papagallo in Thunder, no, in Road Warrior.
Road Warrior.
What a terrible, terrible film.
So it really set the pace for, there was tons of them. We could look them up. I think I found a database somewhere at one point where I'd have to dig up all these films, but a lot of copycat films. Now,
Yeah.
many years later, which was it 80? When was Beyond Thunderdome? 88?
All right, let's see here. Thunderdome is actually
89?
1985.
Oh,
Much sooner
five.
than
Okay.
Much sooner than you thought.
Oh,
1985.
I thought there was a lot longer. All I remember is when I first saw that movie, my opinion was, okay, it started off great, it was good, until it got to the whole thing with the kids.
I will agree with you. It started off pretty good. Granted, how do I put this?
Oh, by the way, spoilers! Spoilers!
Spoilers. They didn't kill as many people as I was expecting them to kill.
Well, it had Tina Turner. They were probably trying to make it a more
I don't know what
acceptable film. I don't know what they were doing.
But even during the awesome, the interview process.
The interview.
Yes. There's not enough dead bodies created during that. I don't think there are any, honestly. I don't think he beat up some guys, but it really started feeling like the film was pulling its punches, and certainly.
Well, they
definitely
definitely seemed like they're trying to tone it down a little bit.
We didn't come for it to be toned down. That's not why we bought a ticket. We bought a ticket to see shit explode and guys get run over while wearing mohawks and sports gear. That's what we came for.
That's true. But looking back at it in the past, though, because I said it started off good. He went out to he got what do they call it when they send him out to when they spin the wheel?
Oh,
what is that called where they send him?
Break the deal, face the wheel. Exile? No, it was an Exile.
No, it wasn't. It was. Oh, what the fuck? What is it called? I don't remember now. But they said it was a specific word. Like they sent him out into the desert. So
yeah.
then they encountered the kids.
It wasn't Exile, but it was something like that. I didn't mind the kids to start with because I was immediately reminded of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, it was very much like that. Plane crashes.
Which is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, plane crashes. The kids are left, and you have the older kids taking care of the younger kids. So it made sense. These are young kids who weren't exposed too much to society. They crashed in the middle of the desert. There was an oasis there, and they grew up as primitives because that's all they know. So technology is magic. So it kind of all made sense because that's kind of what would happen. They remember the before time and the apocalypse, and
yes.
So it made sense, and then the whole he made friends with them, and they thought he was the savior, and they went back. So as I've come back to it, I still don't think it's still not as good as the Road Warrior
it's
by
not.
any means.
It is way too toned down.
Family friendly? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about family friendly, but I will note that I have wandered over to the Mad Max wiki and Gulag.
Gulag, thank you.
That was what they called that. They actually have a lovely photograph of the wheel. Here it says acquittal, gulag, anti's choice, life imprisonment, amputation, underworld, death, forfeit goods, hard labor, and I can't read the last one. Spin again.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's the wheel.
You always want that. So, not as good movie. Definitely sets you up for another sequel potentially because Max wandered off. They flew off into the sunset and they set up in the old they set up in old Australia, which is again interesting. The setting they did, because all around, the opera house and all those
It looks grown
waterways
up.
are dry, but don't those connect from the ocean?
Yeah, the one thing that sort of struck me was how the buildings all looked like the tops were sheared off by a nuclear blast. I mean, it didn't look like merely a matter of society devolving and falling apart due to lack of resources. It
Oh,
looked like,
that definitely took place a lot many years after. But I'm just looking at the level of devastation. Is all the water around the city is gone, and that feeds from the ocean. It's not a lake, it's not a river. It's gone, McCready. There's no so did the the water levels decrease in the world? So, or did they just think it looked cool and they didn't think about that, right?
well, there's probably not a lot of thinking about it, but maybe we got that nuclear winter that Carl Sagan was always promising us, and the result is the polar ice caps, filled up with water and the ocean levels dropped.
Possibly, maybe.
I would also like to point out that one of the other failings of Beyond Thunderdome, besides the fact that
Another one?
they got plenty, sadly they have plenty, is the chase at the end.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Mad Max had this chase at the end where it was the truck going down a straight piece of road with a bunch of guys chasing them. Now,
The train.
Road Warrior, that's the tanker full of gas. That was
Yep.
great. Well, suddenly, out of the fucking blue, for reasons that even now seem, I mean, it looks like they just ran out of ideas. You've got another chase on a truck-like vehicle going down a straightaway, except it's a rail line this time instead of a road, with a bunch of vehicles chasing them. For again, really, this is it? This is the best you got?
Well,
You couldn't get-
they were trying to capture on our race memory of the first movie to be like, oh, this is cool because it's just like the other one.
Our race memory? What are you, Robert E. Howard now?
Yeah, well,
They were hoping that we would forgive them for all the other shit they put us through in the film, and go, oh look, there's a big chase where everybody goes straight.
Yes.
Thank goodness we finally got that part, because that's what we wanted.
Oh, and of course, all these vehicles which came out of nowhere, which we didn't see before.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah.
But but if we go back a little bit into that movie, I don't know, I still think the best scene in that entire movie, which again has been copied over and over and over again, is when he's checking into Bartertown and they're like, you got to leave your weapons. And he spends about 25, 30 minutes pulling out weapons.
Yeah, it's literally like a minute and a half of screen time of just pulling out guns.
And ammo and knives. So again, that scene, awesome scene. Never.
You've got to admit that Thunderdome and its whole 2 men enter, 1 men leave chant has become iconic. I mean, despite the fact that the rest of the movie doesn't hold up.
Oh no, that stays. That's got staying power. The whole Thunderdome thing. That scene. Well, because look, there was some rapper, I don't know when, did some kind of video which is basically copying Mad Max and Thunderdome and stuff like that. I don't remember who it was at all, but I just remember hearing about it. So
I'm sure we wouldn't have to dig very deep over at Futurama to find some Thunderdome jokes.
Oh yeah, it's very the whole Mad Max trilogy, the culture, it's very iconic, and it's definitely steeped in our society now because of the references, like we talked about Fallout, how all the Raiders look like the shoulder pads and the mohawks. It's very predominant, and it's set a standard, and it's stayed with us to this day. Now,
yeah, that's not bad. That's again 35 almost years, 34 years of having a cultural impact on the genre. So that's pretty freaking good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's got some staying power. Now, and also to show some other influences on the culture is there was a board game by Milton Bradley that came out called Thunder Road. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we've talked about Thunder Road on the show before.
We talked about Thunder Road, and I've played that game, with the whole little gyrocopters and we got that. There was a Super NES game that came out for based on Mad Max.
Car Wars. Steve Jackson's Car Wars.
Car Wars, and there's another video game coming out next year based off the new movie that's coming out, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
And there's an RPG called that was put out by Fantasy Flight Games, which I've talked about before, Redline, which is basically car combat role-playing game. It's basically set in the Mad Max universe, essentially.
Yeah.
So we still got a lot of things based on that. And before we talk about the new Mad Max movie, the reboot, called Mad Max Fury Road, there was a Mad Max documentary that's out that I watched. I rented it and watched it because I had all this free credit on Amazon for rental, so I wasn't going to pay good money for it, so I rented it for free. It was called, what the fuck is it called? I just forgot. Welcome to Wherever You Are, the Mad Max documentary. They kind of, these a few Australian guys make this mock replica V8 Interceptor, and they start driving around Australia to go to locations. Some locations, well, their intention was to go to locations where the things were filmed. They're trying to track down, like a couple of the towns.
Let's point out that this film is, again, 35 years old, and yet there are still car shops that you can find on the internet who specialize in converting Ford Falcons into V8 Interceptors.
Yep, you can get all the parts. So these guys are going around trying to find the locations, and they're trying to find out that they're looking for this mysterious original V8 Interceptor. Now that was the basic concept of the documentary, but it fell flat completely. There was very little of actual research. Basically, it was just them. Yeah, this is how much we like the film, and this is how we made the car. And look, we're driving around, and we're driving around, and we're driving around, and oh, look, our truck broke down, and here's 15 minutes of us trying to fix our truck, so it was
riveting. This is riveting stuff.
It was not riveting. Very little about it. They didn't really show us anything we couldn't have Googled or in the Wikipedia, and it ended off with this probably another 20 minutes of this. There's this large race somewhere in Australia. And apparently they call it the Mad Max culture because like these people get drunk and they have like derbies and they burn cars. It's like Burning Man for car race enthusiasts or something. It was really weird. And they probably spent like 20 minutes on that. And I'm like, what the fuck does this got to do with Mad Max? None of it. It was so. The documentary probably could have been about 15 minutes and would have covered all the Mad Max information they found. So
that is some sad shit. Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Now tell the viewers, all two or three of them.
Yeah.
There's
two people watching right now. Hi everybody, but
make sure these guys know about the two sort of conventions.
Yes.
Or Mad Max or Wasteland Weekend, and what's the other one?
Yes, we have Wasteland. Thank you, Richard Balsley, who just told me that the Thunderdome video was from a Tupac's Shakara song. So thank you, Richard Balsley.
Did you just say Tupac Shakara? You are so white, dude. Shakur. Tupac Shakur. Holy crap! I don't even listen to him. All right, moving along.
Well, okay, all right. I'm gonna do this, okay? But.
Jewish white boy from South Florida.
Exactly. Thank you.
Ask him about Lustmord. He can tell you everything.
Yeah, I'll tell you everything about that. But so thank you, Richard, for telling us it's Tupac. And there's the original.
Did he fight Biggie? Did he fight Biggie Smalls in the Thunderdome? That would be some shit.
I don't know. Okay, I don't watch it. I don't listen to it. I just know about it. All right.
Okay. Moving along.
All right. There was originally an event I discovered about 6 years ago called Road War Northwest. It's a car convention. It was originally based on the whole Mad Max theme. Like there was a couple of people would have replicas of Mad Max cars, bring them there. They actually had Wez come out. Very small little car. It's like a car show. And over the years, it's gotten bigger and bigger. It's really turned into just like a classic car show with cars from different movies, replicas and things like that. So which is kind of cool in itself. But it started off as a Mad Max event.
You got to wheel the Landmaster up there. Is what you got to do.
Oh yeah. So in their 2007, which might have been their no, it wasn't their first one, but the one in 2007, they were going to do what was called the tanker run. The guy who ran the convention rented a tanker truck, and they were going to drive a tanker truck from the car show at a museum to this drive-in movie theater where they're going to like show movies, and they were going to have all the cars from the show, especially Mad Max cars, do this tanker run where they're going to drive the car, drive the tanker, and they contacted a local group of Gyrocopter Club who's going to fly the gyrocopters over the tanker truck and the cars during the run, but unfortunately it rained in the afternoon and they were grounded, so they couldn't fly.
But they still did the run. They still ran the tanker truck.
They still ran the tanker, ran the car, and they've been doing this every year, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. So I always thought
that's some awesome shit right there.
Yeah, I don't know if they do the tanker run every year, but the fact that they even did it is awesome. This is in the Pacific Northwest in your territory, out of Tacoma, I believe. And then, of course, after that stemmed, I think this is its third or fourth year, was Wasteland Weekend, which was the Burning Man for Mad Max Road Warrior Apocalypse fans. Basically, that's what it is. So it's dirty hippies in leather and studs, you know.
It's cosplay outdoors in the desert. Let me just point out that having just gone to PAX and seen a pile of cosplay, some of these outfits don't look like they're going to do so hot out of doors in direct sunlight.
No.
You do not want to dress up as a member of the Brotherhood of Steel.
No.
In direct Nevada sunlight. This is going to be bad for you.
Well, most of the people dress. It's more of like a Mad Max-ish thing. So people dress up in leather and studs, and we've talked about having a show just about apocalyptic fashion because the apocalypse has become more about just being fashion, because it's like they're like, look, we're apocalyptic, we're wearing leather and studs and gas masks and stuff that, like, yeah, it kind of looks cool because you saw it in a movie or video game, but I don't think it's that really fucking practical. I mean, these outfits, it's like, do you really think people are just going to all of a sudden strip off their nice warm clothes and look, we're a fetish party, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Apparently the bomb, missed all of the leather bars. And,
okay, that's what it is.
You know,
they were safe because of all the leather. It protected them.
Exactly. Yes. The only post-apocalyptic fashion statement I loved was the one from Jeremiah, where they realized the bad guys have underwear.
Yeah.
And they realized, shit, if the bad guys have enough resources that they can spend their time and energy having clean, fresh underwear, we're screwed. They're rolling in resources. Oh my God! It's not enough they don't have helicopters, machine guns, biowarfare suits. Now they got clean underwear. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's more. Those shows are more real, but the whole thing, yeah, it looks cool. Don't get me wrong, everybody. It looks cool. It's kind of neat, iconic. But again, it's if we're gonna go real prepper and apocalyptic thing, it ain't fucking practical. It's a fetish fashion show. That's what the apocalypse has become. Is a fetish fashion show.
I'm suddenly remembering that they did a gag on the Daily Show about high gas prices in Wisconsin.
Oh my God!
And I can't. It wasn't Rob Corddry. It was the guy who was the ex-Marine whose name I can't remember. But he shows up with the fucking black paint on his face and the feathers. And his belly hanging out, and his fucking shoulder pads with feathers on it, and he's like, "Yes, the juice, the precious juice," and just goes into the opening sequence of Mad Max 2, right there as part of the gag. And gee, everybody over 30 got it, I guess. I don't know about these whippersnappers, but yeah, we all got it. We all got the Mad Max joke.
You all got it. But speaking of Mad Max, one more thing. Let's go back to the 80s. I've looked extensively on the internet, have not been able to find this. There was a gas company commercial. It might have been BP or Gulf. I don't remember who it was that had the series. Yes, what I'm going to say. The series of commercials for the Road Warrior. He basically he was driving around in the Landmaster.
Yeah, from the again, it amazes me how the Landmaster survived Damnation Alley. Nobody knows Damnation Alley, but everybody's seen the damn vehicle from it over and over again. Yeah, so he's driving around, and he's dressed like Mad Max, and he's stopping at gas stations, and I don't remember. I have scoured the internet trying to find somebody who's posted this on YouTube or has some videotape somewhere
this commercial. I have yet to find it. If anybody could find that and send me a link to it, that would be awesome. So, the Road Warrior.
All right, the message is now out amongst the internet. You've made your internet birthday wish.
Yes,
See how it turns out.
I want the Road Warrior. So,
God.
all right.
Yeah,
So
I remember those, and I remember them being around at the same time that there was some weird spin-off TV show about like some sort of Road Warrior-esque super truck. Do you remember this? It was like a battle truck TV show.
Super truck?
Well, it was about the same time, and
same time as like Airwolf and all that stuff, like supercopters and
probably earlier than Airwolf, but it was some. Apparently, some producer watched Mad Max 2, saw the part where there was a truck being chased by stuff, and decided that's what people liked. They tried to build an entire TV show about some sort of super battle truck being chased by things every week. And it lasted about 5 episodes before it tanked. And yeah, it was. I'm not remembering anything else about it. If anyone else can fill in the blanks on that, good luck.
Yeah, I vaguely remember something like that. So, all right. So our final thing we're going to talk about briefly, because we don't have a whole lot of information on it, is, as we know, there's a reboot for Mad Max Fury Road. I've seen pictures of, like, costumes and vehicles. Very little about it. There's not a whole lot out. I mean, there was some out there. There might be more now. I haven't looked in a while, but there wasn't a lot out there. Apparently,
it is directed by George Miller, who was the director of all the previous ones. So it's got that going for it.
That's true. And so because of that, it's drum up an interest. There's a video game coming out for it, which is good. So we'll see if the movie's any good. I'm always willing to give reboots a chance, or like kind of remakes, because you never know. They might be good in parallel, but not necessarily replacing the originals.
Yeah, it's not like we've managed to enjoy Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and George Romero's Dawn of the Dead side by side, no problem there. So maybe this will be able to fall into there somewhere.
That kind of like, we could enjoy it as a separate thing. You could have called it a different movie, but because all I know is, because this movie's coming out and they're coming out the video game is at San Diego Comic-Con. Yet again, I want to go out there one day, but the year I get out there, there's going to be nothing cool that I want. But again, this year, what they had, and it made me cry that I couldn't be there, was they had this whole big thing for the Mad Max video game. So they had this whole giant set with a green screen, and they had the fucking V8 Interceptor there. And they're like, get in the game. They're doing things where they're like filming a little thing that you could be in, or take a picture with the car. And I'm like, I want a picture of myself with the V8 Interceptor. Why can't I be there?
No, tears rolling down your face.
I cried myself to sleep for a week when I saw that. So
no one can blame you. No one would blame you.
Yeah, I didn't get to be there. I didn't get to witness it. So yet again, I missed out. Again, so like I said, as more comes out about the movie, and we see more we get trailers and shit like that, we'll talk about it more. I will reserve my judgment for now. Normally, I'm very judgmental and picky about movies, but
one more thing we forgot to mention. I know it's completely just going back. I totally forgot to mention, from all the Fallout games, all the way from the very beginning, the Fallout 1 and 2. The frickin' leather armor you pick up for the game actually has the one missing sleeve.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, the one missing sleeve from where he cut his jacket off to fix his arm.
Okay.
And so all the leather armor in the game has that set up with the pad on one side, and certainly the vehicle you pick up in Fallout 2 it's got a blower, of course, because the V8 Interceptors had a blower. So yeah, and that's carried through all the way to New Vegas. That same armor look has been used consistently, and it's just plucked right out of Mad Max and Road Warrior.
Well, and speaking of the blower on the internet, just to get kind of car geek on you for a second here, is because in the movie, like, it shows the car running with the blower, and he flips the switch and it shuts the blower off.
Yeah.
Not real. Totally cannot happen in real life, because the way it works, you can't just shut it off. It was all because basically the blower.
It's belt driven.
Yeah, because it's belt. Well, you can't they say it was something that would disengage the blower so it's not turning. It doesn't. The blower basically replaces your manifold because it's basically a blower is a supercharger, which is a forced air induction, which forces because the more oxygen you have in your engine, in your fuel, the more power you have. So you can't just shut that off. It doesn't happen. So what they did was they built something up to kind of fake it. I mean, mind you, it looks really cool. It's a great movie concept, but reality you can't do that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So just so anybody who cares about cars like I do, you can't do it if you didn't already know that. So
that is fine. You know, we're here to we're going to geek out, and you're geeking out about cars. Geeking out about cars during a Mad Max retrospective is mandatory, I think. Actually.
Yes. Because I've had several old cars myself over the years, so I know a little bit about cars. So it's like I researched. I'm like, how do they do that? And I researched like, oh, that's bullshit. It doesn't work.
We're bad podcasters. We should have gone and checked out one of those websites that does the conversions just to find out how much it costs.
Oh yeah. I remember reading a number of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was actually a company somewhere on the West Coast that would find a Falcon, import it over, do the conversion for you, put the kits on and everything. That back 10 years ago, that was about a $45,000 prospect.
That sounds about right. No, that sounds about right.
10 years ago. It's probably more now because again, the cars have become more scarce and cost of fuel charges, everything's gone up. To transport shit over. So
yeah,
when I win the lottery. Did I have enough money to burn? Not just I want a little pot. If I won a big.
Step one, you buy the house in Nevada.
Well, I'm thinking about buying the silo out in Odessa, but.
Are you sure? There's a lot of room in that silo you're never going to get to use. I mean, they're not going to let you put missiles back in it.
Damn it! But
they don't. Nanny State gets in the way of everything.
Well, what they do not know will not hurt them. But yeah, that's one of those things. Is if I ever won to where I got a ridiculous amount of money off a lotto ticket, that it's I could blow $75,000 on a car that I'm not going to drive every day. That's the car I'm getting. I'm not going to be one of these assholes. Oh, I'm going to buy a $500,000 Ferrari and fuck that. I want the fucking V8 Interceptor. That's the dream car right there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's oh yeah, something off of Top Gear that's a $500,000, $2 million car.
Fuck that. Who needs that?
I'll get the Landmaster. I'm going to drive over the top of the expensive Ferrari. That's how I want to spend $2 million, is crushing a Ferrari under the treads of some armored personnel carrier. That's what I want.
That is a very, very sound plan, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so folks, we're going to wrap it up here. We're just under an hour, so we're gonna shut down here because apparently the original plan of doing 30-minute shows, as we said, is long out the window. That's never going to happen. So, but we are going to try to keep it under an hour. So we are under an hour. So we are going to wrap up. Like I said, we could talk about Mad Max and stuff forever, but we'll come back. We'll come back to it when. A little bit when we know more about Fury Road, and me and Scott will talk about what we're going to do next time. And well, shit, we may have to adjust our next show because 2 weeks from now, on Tuesday, I have a 6 a.m. flight because I got to go to Dayton, Ohio for work. So I don't know if I'm going to be up that late, but we'll adjust what we're going to do, and we'll figure out what we're going to talk about. Because again, as we know, the apocalypse is rich in topics. Maybe we should talk about the post-apocalyptic fetish show. I don't know, but
let's not.
Let's not. Okay,
let's not.
Come on. We could wear utility-kilts and hockey masks and.
Great. We're gonna change it to Mad Max Dirt Road as opposed to.
Oh, no. We could get Terry on because doesn't he wear one of those? But.
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does wear a kilt on occasion. I'm trying to think of a way of defending that habit, but I can't.
No, there's no defending it. It is what it is, and everybody's into what they're into. Well, we'll just leave it at that. But
fair enough.
Terry, no offense, we love you. Okay, but all right, so
we're done.
We're done. Any final thoughts?
Yes, that house in Vegas. There's supposed to be a similar one up here in the Northwest. It's not like that. I mean, that thing's crazy town. But there are a number. There's a place up here, I believe, in Everett that's actually got a bunker you can tour.
Oh,
They
nice.
open it up to the public. What's one of the things we really ought to do is try and put together a show where we can point out some more of these apocalyptic tour spots.
Locations, yes, that's yeah. We could talk about our trip and
Right.
other places like what do we call it? We like when I win the lottery, we're going to go on the the North American post-apocalyptic tour. So
Yeah, yeah, and you still need to get out there and hit the temporary Kennedy bunker in your
in
neck of the woods.
Peanut Island, I
Yeah.
want that's one of these days is my plan to go do that. So, all right. So my final thoughts, nothing, folks. Just as always, remember, Domars are stupid. Just never forget that. So we're going to sign off, and when we know what we're going to talk about next week, we'll let you know. But until then, be safe out there in the wasteland, folks. Take care.